Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and we are back for week 2 of the GBA against Aster and the Montreal Habsols. For those that might be confused, GBA is a singles draft league on YouTube, which I joined again. I was part of it last season, did really poorly, had a pretty one-dimensional draft last season, and just really didn't perform very well, but thought it was a really good experience. And going into this season, I decided to join again just because, I haven't really been playing much Pokemon or VGC in general, and I figured this would be kind of a cool experience to really end Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon on, and I wanted to get some more singles draft league experience before going into the next generation, because I definitely want to be better at it. Watching someone like Wolf, for example, play it has really been inspiring, so I definitely would like to improve my skills in the league, and this offers some, other content for you guys that's not related to VGC. For those that are wondering, VGC content will be back shortly. I took a kind of mini vacation for this weekend, but when I'm back, I'll be back with a brand new team for the Ultra Series, so look forward to that. Anyway, it's week 2. We're up against Aster, who had a really impressive week 1 win, and it's just had a really scary looking team. So when it came to building for his team, I ended up going for the 6 same Pokemon that I actually brought last week. I feel like these are the most versatile and offensive members of my team. Some of the more niche members that I drafted, like Toxapex and Wobbuffet, didn't make any sense in this set because Wobbuffet, for example, was super weak to his 2 main, huge picks like Mega Mawile and Necrozma. And then Toxapex, like Toxic Spice, doesn't really do anything against Rotom. Really 5 of the 6 main threats that I thought he'd be bringing. So I ended up going with the 6 same Pokemon. I really wasn't sure what to lead here, so I kind of just, with my team, I feel like there's like 3 to 4 viable lead options, especially out of the 6 that I brought, so I figured, I'll see what he brings in team preview. One of the things that I was really worried about was Nidoqueen, which he actually ended up not bringing, so I was definitely surprised by that. This time around, I am doing the post-game commentary analysis as opposed to doing live commentary. Do apologize for that. I was not able to do a live recording for this week. I know a lot of coaches actually just do this kind of style, so let me know what you guys prefer to see. I think I kind of tend towards live recording just because it helps me think better and it helps me kind of look back and analyze on what I could have done better, and you guys always give me great feedback on like better plays that I could have made. So definitely would like to know that which one you guys would prefer to see for sure. But for this week, we are going to be doing the post-game video analysis. So without further ado, let's go into it. A couple of key things that I noted here. So first of all, I think like Mamoswine was going to be really important here because I opted for a Life Orb set, so I figured it could do a lot of damage against like a lot of the big threats that his team had, especially like the Mawile and the flying types. So definitely had that in the back of my mind. But because he didn't bring Nidoqueen, which I saw in team preview, I thought Xurkitree was actually a really safe lead option here. I'm running a Tail Glow set, but I didn't want to Tail Glow immediately because I figured Rotom here is going to want to Volt Switch out or just Hard Switch, but Volt Switch makes more sense. And I didn't want him like Volt Switching into something that could just potentially one-shot Xurkitree. So I decided to just go for the Thunderbolt. Does a really, really good amount of damage against the Rotom. And Necrozma comes in, and at this point I'm wondering whether he's Scarfed or not. And I kind of take a gamble and I say, okay, if he's Scarfed, I'll at least know that going into the rest of the game, and I might lose my Xurkitree, but that's really important information. I'm running the Z-Move variant, and even though the Z-Move variant won't knock out the Necrozma most of the time, I figure I'll go for it. Worst case, I don't knock him out and he knocks me out in return, but I'll get a lot of good damage off. So I go for the Z-Move, and it actually gets the one-shot, but fortunately enough, I do get a critical hit there. So that's obviously huge because I eliminate his Uber without taking any damage there. He did tell me later like he was max HP, so obviously that mattered. It's a roll against like non-bulk Necrozma, but obviously that's like an amazing turn because we don't lose anything, and there's one thing that I wanted to commit my Z-Move to, it is the Necrozma. So obviously I'm feeling really good about my chances after that one, especially because I know nothing on his team resists electric type, so I know I can just click Thunderbolt and basically get another free knockout. So he kind of gives up the Rotom Wash there, which I think is the best thing to give up, and at this point I'm up 6-4, so obviously this is like the best start possible. Xurkitree has been putting an immense amount of work, and anything will pretty much faint to it at this point because nothing resists it. So it's going to be Salamence coming in, and obviously, Salamence is going to be faster than Xurkitree. I'm thinking it probably has, like, Earthquake or Dragon Pulse, one of the two which can knock out Xurkitree, but I kind of want to scout out for what it does. So instead of switching Xurkitree out, decide just to sack it because I feel like it's really done its job at this point. It's going to faint from most attacks from the Pokemon in the back, and he does reveal that he is Earthquake. So goes for that, and that's really good information to know. So here I bring out Mamoswine, obviously, especially without even revealing what item my Mamoswine has. Salamence really wants to switch out. Scarf Mamo is what I ran last week, so I'm thinking maybe he's scared of that. Instead, I'm actually running a Life Orb variant, so I actually have Stealth Rocks on this Mamoswine as well, and now that I've gotten rid of Rotom Wash, I figure, okay, this is the perfect time to go for Stealth Rocks. Honestly, I think Earthquake here would have been a really solid play as well, but Stealth Rocks was relatively low risk because, like, he was almost definitely switching there, and yeah, I guess, like, I didn't want to, I wanted to get something free because I'm already up at this point. I know a bunch of the things that he has in the back are pretty weak to rocks, so, Mamu is really one of the key members of this team, so I want to switch it out because he can beat the Mawile, the Tornadus, and the Salamence that we've seen. I was worried about like switching to a Fire Fang instead of just a knockoff, and I'm okay with that. It does reveal that I have the Choice Scarf. I did run Scarf Kartana again because I wanted to maybe close out the game with it, but I'm fine losing my Scarf here, doesn't really matter. Go for the Smart Strike there just to get some damage off. It hits everything on his side for neutral damage at this point, so I might as well. It actually reveals the Stealth Rock, which I definitely wasn't expecting, but I'm okay with because it's not too much of a threat to me. So things are still looking pretty good right now. You know, I'm still up 5-4. I've got my rocks up, and Salamence is actually going to come in here. So the Intimidate's obviously kind of unfortunate, and I am going to get the Smart Strike off, but as you'll see here, it really doesn't do as much damage as I was hoping for, and he reveals the Rocky Helmet as well. I had no idea what item Salamence was going to be running here, so that is good information. Makes sense with the kind of this bulkier version that he's running. We do see the Roost as well. You'll note that Salamence, of course, did outspeed Kartana, and that's because I was running like an admin Kartana with not much speed investment, because, of course, I did have the Choice Scarf. So at this point, he's healing more than I am doing damage, and so he can just continue to Roost. But with Rocks up, and with Kartana really not being too essential for this matchup because it's not really doing super effective damage, I figure, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to sack the Kartana. I actually go for the knockoff here just to get rid of the Rocky Helmet. Yeah, I don't think that really was too important, but I figured it might as well. So I bring Mamoswine back in, and at this point I'm thinking, you know, he might think that I'm going to want to go for an Earthquake. Last time around, you know, I didn't reveal anything other than the rocks, so I just go straight for the Ice Shard. I figure even if Mawile switches in, it's just going to faint to an Earthquake. If Tornadus switches in, then it's a 2-shot. If Reuniclus comes in, that's probably the worst case scenario, but he actually does give up the Salamence, so things are looking really, really solid for me right now. So Tornadus comes in, and this turn I think was a slight misplay on my end. I'm thinking that I can just go for the Ice Shard and that'll one-shot the Tornadus. And I did do the calc, and it looked like it was a pretty favorable outcome for me, but the Tornadus actually survives and gets the Grass Knot off. And so the reason why I think that was a really big mistake on my end is because Mamoswine just, you know, can clean up Tornadus after getting a bit of more chip damage. It can one-shot the Mawile as well, which is really, really important. So I think it was a really big mistake to just give up Mamoswine the way I did. I think I definitely should be switching out there into something that I have in the back, like the Aegislash, actually. So really not a fan of the play that I made there, and giving up Mamoswine was pretty bad. Like, you know, you imagine after the first 2 turns of this game, like, I have a really solid chance of winning this. So that was, I think, kind of a throw on my end. I do bring out Lopunny though, and just go for the fake out. Like, it's just the safest play. Tornadus is going to be faster there. If he switches out, then whatever comes in takes a little bit of chip damage, and he can't really switch out because it's just going to faint to rocks damage. So the Reuniclus comes out now, and I'm thinking, okay, Aegislash should be able to close out this game. I end up going for return instead of switching out because I wanted just to get some free damage off. If Reuniclus goes for the Psychic and knocks me out, then Aegislash can just clean things up. Trick Room was probably the worst case scenario, but I didn't feel too bad about that because, of course, I know that I have the Aegislash in the back, so yeah, that's a pretty free switch in for me here. It's unlikely that Reuniclus is going to go for like a Shadow Ball into the Lopunny slot. So Reuniclus here does go for a Calm Mind, which makes a lot of sense. I figured he was probably like a Trick Room Calm Mind variant with Shadow Ball and a Psychic type attack. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm lefties Aegislash, and even with Calm Mind, Shadow Ball should still do a lot of damage to the Reuniclus. So I'm still feeling pretty comfortable about my position right now. I've got Rayquaza in the back to really close things out as well. This next turn, pretty clear play just to go for a Shadow Ball. He does go for the Shadow Ball, and it does over half, but more importantly, gets the Special Defense drop, which is really scary because I think without that drop, I would heal back enough from 2 turns of leftovers where I could probably survive another Shadow Ball. Might come down to a roll, but the Special Defense drop there was really, really scary to see. I was thinking Shadow Ball might get the knockout there, but the Reuniclus also hangs on with just a sliver of HP. So combination of Reuniclus hanging on and Aegislash getting the Special Defense drop was really, really scary for me here. I know that Reuniclus, of course, can recover, so I didn't want him to just go for a recover here and King Shield. Instead, I decided to just Shadow Ball, and the reason being is I know I've got my Lopunny in the back, so even if he knocks me out here, I can bring out Lopunny, fake out, and then go for like a return. So He does make the nice call of just going for a Shadow Ball instead of something like a Recover, so I bring out Lopunny. And at this point, the one thing I'm scared about is the Reuniclus actually swapping out into Mawile, because then Lopunny can't actually one-shot the Mawile. But he does decide to stay in, which is really good for me. At this point, I feel like I should have the game won. However, I actually realized that I made a mistake and I didn't bring the Lopunny that I was supposed to bring, which was one with the Fire Punch. This one is still the same Lopunny from the first week with Quick Attack. So if I had the Fire Punch variant, I knew that the game was pretty much locked off regardless of what would happen. Instead, because I don't have Fire Punch in this variant, I am actually forced to just go for a return here onto the Mawile and close out the game with Rayquaza. But at this point, I'm thinking, wow, like I actually don't have the game 100% won because Mawile here is going to knock out the Lopunny, and then if he has Sucker Punch and he crits the Sucker Punch onto my Rayquaza, I think Rayquaza actually just faints and I lose. So yeah, not bringing the right Lopunny set was not great for us here, because if we had Fire Punch, obviously we just go for it there, and that should just cleanly knock out the Mawile. We did get the crit on return, but that doesn't end up mattering. But I end up bringing Rayquaza. I'm hoping there's no Sucker Punch. I don't have Extreme Speed, which makes things scarier, but he doesn't have Sucker Punch. I had Brick Break specifically to deal with Tyranitar, which was on his team. That was one of the major threats that I was prepared to deal with, but doesn't end up coming out, and we end up winning this week 1-0. So overall, obviously, I'm really happy about the win, but there are a couple things that I want to analyze in this game that I think could have been better. First of all, I got extremely fortunate with that critical hit on the Necrozma. By getting that critical hit, it basically gave me 2 free knockouts on the Necrozma, and he had to sack something else. Given that the Xurkitree did take the chip damage, I think we were talking after the game, and he was like, yeah, it was a slight misplay for me to bring in the Tornadus. He didn't need to sack the Rotom Wash, basically, because I think the Xurkitree would have been in KO range from something like an Earthquake from Salamence, but not entirely sure about that. But the critical hit is obviously huge. He said he was just going for the knockout onto Xurkitree that turn, so it would have given me a free switch in, but obviously when you eliminate 2 of your opponent's 6 Pokemon immediately in the beginning of the game, it makes it significantly easier, so I do have to apologize for that. But of course for us, you know, after I got the crit and I knocked out Rotom, I was like, okay, I really should win this game because everything I've got in the back has a really good matchup against like his remaining members, and I really don't like how I played the remainder of this game. First of all, I ended up only being a 1-0 victory, and I think I could have conserved some Pokemon better. Second of all, I was in a position where if he had Sucker Punch and got the critical hit with Mawile, I would have lost, and I don't like being in that position. Of course, if I just brought the right Lopunny set, the one that was supposed to have Fire Punch over Quick Attack, then the Lopunny there basically closes out the game regardless, so that's my bad. I should double check that I have all the right members and all the right Pokemon that I'm supposed to be bringing, so that definitely learned my lesson there. Otherwise, looking back, I am like okay with most of the plays that I made in the remainder of the game. I think, yeah, part of me really wanted to Earthquake with Mamoswine, the turn that the Mawile switched in, but I don't regret going for Rocks there because I knew I was already ahead in the game, and I figured might as well go for something that gives me guaranteed return, as opposed to kind of Earthquaking a Salamence, which maybe might stay in and go for something like a Draco Meteor, who knows. Obviously, it's very unlikely that Salamence does stay in there, so I think Earthquake is actually a pretty fine play. But yeah, I don't regret going for the Rocks there. I think the biggest turn that I would do over, there are 2 main turns, but the main one I'm looking at is the turn that I just sacrificed Mamoswine to Tornadus, because like I said, I think what I should have done was switched Mamo out into something like Aegislash, get chip damage onto the Rayquaza. And once Rayquaza is chipped down, Mamoswine should be able to clean out the game because you can Ice Shard Tornadus for knockout, Earthquake Mawile for knockout, and Earthquake will 2-shot the Reuniclus. So I think that was probably the biggest misplay that I made in this game, assuming that Life Orb Ice Shard would get the knockout on Tornadus. Obviously, if it does, then that turn looks great for me, but because it didn't, I lost basically my biggest threat to the Mawile. Kartana didn't do much in this game, but I was fine with that. You know, part of having Kartana on this team is it is also a switch-in into a lot of things. One thing I was worried about was, for example, like Hydro Pump from Rotom could be kind of annoying, although not really against this team. I forgot exactly what the things I was mainly worried about that I brought Kartana for, but Kartana typically is just a great way to clean out games, as we saw in the first week, where you have like Choice Scarf, and it'll outspeed most Scarf users, right? So I was thinking he might want to Scarf his Necrozma. So with Kartana, obviously I'll be able to outspeed. I had Knockoff, which can just eliminate the Necrozma immediately, so that was fine. Rayquaza didn't really do much this game. It served as like a sweeper to close things out. So I actually ran a Life Orb variant with like Draco Meteor, Overheat, Earthquake and Brick Break. So the idea was that I could hit anything on my opponent's team for a huge amount of damage. Like Life Orb Draco can one-shot a lot of things that he brought. I brought Brick Break because he did have Tyranitar, and I thought Tyranitar would be a really annoying Pokemon to deal with, especially running an Aegislash, although he didn't end up bringing it, and I guess that makes sense because obviously it's weak to so many things like Sacred Sword Kartana, Earthquake Mammo, Sacred Sword, Aegislash, Lopunny, and even fighting type attacks that you can tech onto Rayquaza. I think ultimately my life was a lot easier this game because he didn't end up bringing Nidoqueen. I actually had like Tail Glow, HP Ground Circuitry. It was, yeah, Tail Glow, Thunderbolt, HP Ground, and what was the last attack? I'm blanking out on that right now, actually. Energy Ball, yeah, I think. But I ended up just being able to click Thunderbolt for free, so that was really, really nice. Yeah, so overall, like, relatively lucky game, and one that was made a lot easier because he didn't bring one of the main things I was worried about, and I got very, very lucky with that critical hit to begin with. But that being said, because I had a really good start, I'm not happy about how the game closed out because I feel like I made some suboptimal plays. The biggest one, once again, being sacrificing Mamoswine. So definitely curious on your guys' takes on what I maybe could have done better. Yeah, I think I talked about most of the sets that I had, but I ran like Lefties, Aegislash. It was Life Orb Mammo with EQ, Ice Shard, Icicle Crash, and Stealth Rock. Scarftana you saw earlier. I mentioned the Rayquaza set. The Lopunny ended up being the wrong one, so that also would have gave me like an 100% win con instead of having to risk a potential critical hit from a Sucker Punch that we didn't know was there or not. So next time I will make sure to have the right Lopunny, because yeah, Fire Punch Lopunny was like my best answer against Mawile. So once I lost Mammo, I was pretty scared of how I could approach the matchup against Mawile. But yeah, that's gonna be it. So the Melbourne Rotoms will go up 2-0 in this season of GBA. Obviously, I'm very happy about that start, but only have to go from here. I'd love to make the playoffs. Like I said, my goal really is to just break even. Last season, we only ended up with 2 wins, so we're already there. That's pretty good. But I really like the team that I've drafted this time around. I hope I can show off some of the other more unique members, like Wobbuffet or Toxapex. This was just really not the week for it. You really, there's just no argument really to bring either of those over the things that I did end up bringing. I was kind of considering Magmortar specifically to deal with the Mawile, but I was like, I'm not the biggest fan of it, so I ended up not going for it. And Xurkitree, which I was kind of hesitant about bringing at first, ended up being a really pivotal member. So pretty happy about that. Thought my prep this week was solid. It gave me a winning chance, and once I got the critical hit, really just amplify things. But Aster played really well, I think, to put himself in a position after falling behind really quickly, and especially like playing around the RNG that he was dealt with. So props to him. That was a really close game in the end, and yeah, my lack of singles expertise definitely shows here and there, but overall pretty happy about that. So thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Really happy to move on to 2-0, and we'll see you next week. I'll be back with some VGC videos as well. So thanks for watching. All right, peace.